today's a really exciting day for me. I'm going to Dallas to go see my cousins, and every time I get around my cousins, I'm like every time I get around family, I just feel like I'm a completely different person. Being around people that know you very intimately from when you were younger, being around people who have chosen to like love you through every single stage of you just hits so different because they've seen like the growth that's happened and they've still chosen to stay by you. They know you like it's just very different, and every time I'm just always so excited because I can be completely myself without any like filters or without feeling like I need to be not perfect, but without feeling like I'm going to say the wrong things or I'm going to look at them the wrong way or I'm going to nothing, none of that. And it's so funny because I like to take credit for this relationship that I have now with with that my cousins, all of my cousins have, because it started from me, okay? And technically, they're not my cousins. It was because I made friends with my bigger cousin, and then our younger sisters became friends too, and then our moms became friends too, and then just like that, we've become like this whole cousins. The whole world thinks we're cousins, and I love that for us. Okay, but today's topic is something a little bit different than I would usually talk about, and I think the reason why is because I'm very critical of myself, like especially in this area. I tend to be really really critical of myself, and so when you put things out on social media, you're kind of welcoming other people to be critical of you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because and then the fact that they don't have enough context, right? But people get to like say, oh, you should have done this, but you don't have context into my life or like my childhood, how I grew up and why I made the decisions that I made. So it's kind of hard, right? Especially because everybody thinks that they're experts on love too. So it's like, if you were put in that situation, I don't know that you'd have done anything differently, right? But yeah, no, I wanted to talk about my love life, romance, if you will. For the past like 2, 3 years, I haven't like talked to anyone like in a romantic way. I haven't been excited even about talking to anyone. I've just been raw dogging life by myself. Like literally people are like, oh, I'm always talking to someone at one point, and I'm like, no, nobody's on my phone. Partly because, and people are like, well, people are interested in you, it's just that maybe you're not interested in people that are interested in you. No, I don't know if it's because I tend to like filter the access that especially men have to me. Like women, I'm more open, talk to me, DM me anywhere, I'm responding. But men, I just tend to filter like the access that men have to me, for so many reasons, right? But I've been reflecting on the fact that I'm super, super grateful to actually be single at this age. But not even for the reasons that other people might think, like, oh, men are scum. I think that there are good men out there, and everyone, will find the person that's like well suited for them eventually. Um, my reason for being grateful to be single at 30 is actually because I I it's this is so difficult also for me to say, and because this is really a raw conversation, I haven't pre-planned any of this. I haven't really like scripted it. Some things might come out of like context and I have to like gather myself and reword it. But I'm grateful that I'm single at 30 because for the most part of like my 20s, I didn't really know what I wanted. And not just in the sense that I didn't know what I wanted, I didn't know who I was. And I don't think that I loved myself enough or loved myself as much as I love myself now to be able to allow another person to love me, or even for me to be able to love and be patient with another person. I strongly believe that if I had gotten married at a younger age, say maybe 25, 26, I 100% would have outgrown that person. And I think sometimes it's unfair for people to say that you cannot really outgrow your partner. Um, but it's like I was a child I was a child. My brain had not developed. I didn't even know what I wanted from life. Do you understand what I'm saying? I didn't even know how to love myself. I didn't even know how to like get over my trauma. So how could I possibly have loved someone else? And why do I have to be stuck with them for the rest of my life? Because I chose them when I was at this point when, I didn't know anything. Especially because recently also I was talking to my cousin about the fact that some people choose to grow up and other people just choose to stay the same way that they are. Again, you can't blame them for choosing to stay the same way that they are, because for some maybe it's trauma and they're not ready to like deep dive it. What do you do in that instance where you're their partner, right? And you're now like, yeah, I want to grow up, but the person is like, well, I don't want to grow up. What do you do in that sense? What do you do when you're like, okay, I'm ready to take my life to the next level and to like chase my ambitions? And they're like, yeah, I don't think I'm ready to do that. And I feel like for the past like 5 years, that's kind of been like the stage that I've been where it's like, I'm ready to do this, I'm ready to do that. And the reason why, the most important reason why that is something for me to be grateful about is because when I am in that circle of being in love and finding someone who I like, I tend to take a back seat. Like I tend to just put my life on the back seat and be like, okay, what do you have to do? I think partly it might be patriarchy. I always joke and tell my friends that at the end of the day, listen, when I'm in love, I'm still a patriarchy princess. When I'm in love, yeah, I'm leaving everything and focusing like on the man that I'm with. Like, okay, how do we make things better for you? And there are so many things that I wouldn't have done, so many aspects of my life that wouldn't have panned out the way it is now because I was in love with someone. So, say for instance, I remember when I was dating someone, and I hope that he doesn't, I hope he doesn't watch my podcast. But I remember when I was dating someone in during my internship back in Nigeria, and I was like, oh, I want to go do my masters, and him and his friend had made a joke about, oh, you're not going anywhere, because at the time he didn't want to relocate out of America to out of Nigeria, and he had made a joke that, oh, his friend said that he should even get me pregnant, so I'll stay back. And because of how young I was, it was cute. It was like, oh, that's so cute. He doesn't want me to go. That is fucked up. That is so fucked up. Like when you think about it, because then I would have stayed back in Nigeria. I would have been miserable. I would have missed my opportunity for my father to pay for my school fees, and now I'll have to start saving up with a man because my father's going to be like, I'm not paying for a married woman's school fees. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just, and let me tell you, I don't even know. I think I have a feeling that I didn't take it as a joke at the time, and it might have contributed to me even breaking up with him. That's one point for me because yeah, I'm happy that your brain was, I'm happy that your brain was working at that age. But there are other things that, quite frankly, I just feel like I would have sacrificed for a man. Maybe not the intangibles like moving abroad, because that's a little bit heavy, but something like maybe buying a house, for instance. I bought my first house in 2019 when I'd say 25 at the time. If I had a boyfriend, there's a possibility that I might have been like, oh, I don't want to buy a house without him. Maybe I want to buy a house with him, or I don't want to buy a house when he has not bought a house because I don't know how that's going to make him feel. And then, or it's one of those things where not necessarily maybe how that's going to make him feel, but like, okay, then will he be coming to my house, or do we split the mortgage? If the house is in my name, where do we live? Oh, we're going to get married next year, so maybe I should not buy a house yet. Let me just wait on that. I had a friend recently, and she, at the age 30, wanted to buy a house, and she was like, I don't know, I have a boyfriend now. What if we get married? This was like 2 years ago. What if we get married? Or I feel some type of way because he doesn't have a house yet and is still living in an apartment. So it's like, how is that going to play out? And I remember just telling her that you don't know anything, like you literally do not know. And if this person is supposed to be your person, they should be happy for you, but also you can't base your life based on another man or another person. What if they're just never, what if they don't even want to have, they don't want a house? But these are very valid things that especially us women think about and tend to like not want to live our lives because of the people that we're with, right? And in hindsight, that was such a, oh, great conversation or great advice to give a friend. But if I was in that position, I would equally have the same feelings. So I can't even falter, right? I would have the same feelings where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do this, and that because of the man that I'm with. Let me tell you guys, and that's the thing, as progressive as I think I am, recently I got a job where I'm now like a senior product manager. This is the best position I've had. This is the best salary I've had. Like I'm it's propelled me to a whole new different tax bracket, right? Coupled with the fact that I have two houses, I'm 30 years old, and I remember just freaking out when I wanted to start that job. Like, oh my God, how am I going to meet a man now that I earn so much money? And it's not a lot of people my age that earn as much as I earn. So, how am I going to meet a man who is comfortable with me making this much money without feeling emasculated? How am I going to navigate that aspect, right? And usually when these things happen, I just have conversations with my friends, and I remember my cousin was just saying, again, you cannot worry about that until that actually happens, until that person comes. You can't worry about that, right? But also, and that's why I keep on saying that I'm grateful that I'm single at 30, because if I was not, a huge chunk of my life wouldn't even have been lived for myself. It would have been lived for the second person. In 2022, whenever I had been, because remember how I said that the last time I had talked to someone was in 2021. In 2022, I was still talking to this person, or like we were on and off. And I remember deciding, like actively, intentionally deciding that at this point, everything that I would do potentially to make this person happy, I have to channel it into myself, right? And so, and I think that that was another turning point in my life where I stopped living, or I stopped trying to live for the men, the romantic relationships that I had, where it now had to be about me, right? And so if I think about, oh, my house is so untidy, this person that I love is going to come in and is going to be like, oh, why is someone's house so untidy? Why not just channel that into myself and assume that I'm that person that I love, right? And do that thing for me instead. And slowly it was a practice. Slowly it started becoming this thing where then I started falling so deeply in love with myself. But even outside of that, it's like realizing that I am a human being, and I think the things that make you love someone else are the same things that should make you love yourself. Or if you don't have those qualities, try to develop those qualities. And that way you don't put anybody on a pedestal, if that makes sense. I feel like maybe I'm going around in circles. If I had a relationship, I wouldn't have the things that I have. I wouldn't have the skills. Honestly, I don't think that I would have the skills that I have. I don't think that I'll have the hobbies that I have. I'm not even talking about having kids and being very busy. I just don't think that I would be myself. I don't think that I would, now going forward, if I got into a relationship today or tomorrow, I'm completely okay because I already know who I am now, or I'm still learning to a very large extent. I know who I am. I've developed so many hobbies. I have like a sense of style. I just I'm in love with the person that I'm becoming because I know who I am, and it's taken me 3 years, 3 whole years. I started therapy in 2022, 2021 when my mom died. So it's taken me 3 whole years to learn about myself and be this person. Oh my God. I remember back in 2022, 2021, excuse me, I was that was when I bought my house in Houston. Well, I bought my house in 2019, but I was still living in Houston at the time, and I completely hated living in Houston. And I remember just being outside my house at the mailbox, and my neighbor comes and he's like, "Hey, how are you enjoying the neighborhood?" And I was like, "To be honest, I don't like it here." And he's like, "Okay, then move." And he said something to me at the time that is so simple that you would think that anybody would know, right? He asked me why I was hesitant on moving. And I was like, yeah, because, there are lots of Nigerians here. And I just feel like I'll meet someone and, I want to, settle down. I feel like this is where I'll meet someone. And I was like, how do you know that you're not going to meet someone there? But he was also like, that is so confusing. And maybe he was like, that doesn't even make any sense because you haven't met anybody yet. So why then do you think that it's limited to where you currently are? And honestly, that again, like I said, that's the kind of person I am, where I'm like, okay, maybe I should not do something. And he was like, this is the age where you're single, you don't have any children obligations or whatever. This is the age where the sky is literally your limit to move anywhere. To be fair, any age. I mean, I moved back to Austin last year again because, again, I didn't have any obligations. I was not considering anybody's life, right? But that move to Seattle single handedly changed the course of my entire life. It changed who I was at the core of it. And if I had stayed back because I didn't know if I was going to meet someone, plus, even if I had a boyfriend, imagine if I had a boyfriend at the time and they were in another state, maybe Oklahoma, for instance, or Kansas, and they wanted us to move, or it was just like, oh, I don't want to move right now because my boyfriend is here. Meanwhile, you don't have any obligations necessarily. It's one of those things where then I would have missed out on the things that I got in Seattle because I didn't want to move or because I was hindering myself from moving. And so for me, a huge part of this year, and I don't know, maybe it's also me trying to see the positive in every single thing, but a huge part of me this year has just been so grateful that I was not partnered up for most of my 20s because it made me try new things. It made me, because this year also, because of the boredom that I've experienced, where I'm not really necessarily talking to anybody or consuming my time with like talking to anyone, it's made me pursue like so many different interests. I've now taken up crocheting. I learned how to swim by myself. I just do a lot of things, and it's also allowed me to step into places by myself without needing to feel like I need another person to be my anchor. Of course, I'm not going to lie that it doesn't get lonely where you're like, oh, I wish I had someone else talking to. I wish I had someone else to bounce ideas off of. But that's where like your friends come in, right? And I'm so grateful to just have a lot of friends who are intelligent and, are also working on themselves. So we have like similar interests and similar values. Even when we don't, we can talk about them. But yeah, honestly, I feel extremely, extremely grateful to be single at this age. And I feel like now I'm ready. I feel like I can tell myself now that I'm ready because I know that I've I'm no longer, I don't want to say that I'm no longer that person who would sacrifice my own life for a relationship or a partner, but I think I can confidently say that because I've come into myself as a person now. I know that it's not going to be me now putting my life on the back burner because I don't want to speak up, or I don't want to emasculate them, or because I want to make them happy by all means. It would be one of those things where it's like, okay, let's talk about it. This is what's going to make me happy. What's going to make you happy? Let's come to a compromise. Whereas if it was back in my 20s, it was a non-negotiable. You want to move, like the man wants to move, we're moving. But now it's like, hey, let's talk about it. Where are we with these things? And it's also one of those things now where it's no longer like a do or die affair, right? Like I no longer see a relationship, I no longer see being in a relationship as such a thing of desperation that it would, that I think that what it was in my 20s was I saw I saw being married and being coupled up as a milestone, that I was approaching it from a place of desperation, and so I was putting my life on the back burner, or I was willing to put my life and my needs as a back burner for me to please them and so that they can stay. And so now that I've gotten to know myself and I'm like, you know what, you're actually such a pretty great person and you don't have to put your life on anybody who's coming into your life now is so lucky. Is so lucky. I genuinely, and I think that that's one of the reasons why I haven't talked to anybody in the past 2 years. Outside of the fact that I'm getting to know myself, I've just come to know myself so well, and I'm in awe of how wonderful and how great. And I'm not even saying this from a place of like, I don't want to say narcissism because it's not narcissism, but from a place like I'm not even like I've gotten to know myself so well that I'm like, wow, whoever ends up with you is like the luckiest person on earth, right? And so that's why even my tolerance or my standard or my openness to talk to men has been like an all-time low, because it's like immediately it's like even before we get to the talking stage of it, it's like like I'm looking at the fuller picture and being like, yeah, no, eliminated, immediately eliminated, because I know what I want, I know what I like, I know how I am as a person. I know that you have to be the most deserving person to be able to claim that I've loved you at the depth of a relationship. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so it's one of those things where I'm extremely grateful that it's taken all of my 20s for me to get to know myself. And now that I'm 30 and I have all these wonderful things, material and non-material, I know myself and I'm still getting to know myself, of course. I have hobbies. And so if I get with someone tomorrow or today, I'm not relying on them to entertain me. I'm not relying on them to provide for me. I'm not relying on them to think for me. I'm not relying on them to do anything for me. And I'm not trying to grasp at their life. I'm not trying to like sacrifice my life to make them stay with me. If they choose not to stay, it's okay, because when I leave, I'm going back to myself. I'm going back to everything that I loved, or I'll like it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, thank God. Thank God. Thank God. I know. I don't know. I feel like maybe I didn't do a great job of expressing myself today. But I tried. So yeah, I'm super happy and excited. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go on dating apps though, but I'm ready. I think I'm ready to be in love, and I'm ready to potentially have someone else share my thoughts with, and them share their thoughts with me, and share hobbies with them. I feel like I will talk more about like dating and relationships as time goes, just because I'm becoming more comfortable as I reflect and get to know what I did wrong or what I could have done better. But I also feel like it's, like I said earlier, that it's difficult because I think love and relationship is a luck thing, right? It's luck, and people get lucky. Some people are not as lucky. I hope that we all get lucky to find someone who we want to share our lives with. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. How do I even end this conversation today? That's not going to be like awkward. Huh, okay. Well, I was super happy to have talked to you guys. This is how much I did today. I only did like one row. I think I'm going to continue this. Again, we'll continue this next week. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope that, I know that it was all over the place. I know, but I hope still that I was able to like just come across. So yeah, I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.